Hey everybody, what's up? We are back again for another stock analysis. Today we are looking at SERV Robotics. So, first look at the stock today. Don't know anything about it. We're going to be getting into it together. So, make sure to subscribe if you're interested. I do these videos every day of the week. Comment below any companies you want me to review. I do these all the time. And that's about it. So, let's get into it. So, SERV Robotics does self driving delivery and they also do zero emission robots for serving people, it looks like. So, this is definitely very niche. Probably not looking at any kind of significant growth for at least a couple years because I just can't imagine the technology is there yet. So the company is at an 800 million market cap, so fairly small. Target price is at 15.7, which are a little bit above that right now. If you can see here, the stock price is actually down significantly over the past 2 days after a fairly large run up. They are still in an uptrend, which you could see just based on the way this is moving. They have seen a fairly large breakout recently and are looking like they did actually, for a very small moment, get an all-time high, but they've came down significantly since then. So we are going to go into some more information about the company. I just wanted to review that quickly. So overall, the estimates, they don't have a lot of information for most of it, but for the 1 year estimates, it's fairly mixed, seeing a slight decline in net income, but sales growth. So definitely some unknowns here with the company. I think there's a lot of potential, of course, for this kind of product. However, it really just depends on how they deliver and what actually happens. So we can see fairly consistent sales growth. They only recently went public, as we could see here. I mean, the chart is this is the daily chart, and it's fairly short. There's not much here yet. So they have seen significant sales growth. I believe this is in thousands. It should be in thousands. However, sometimes it doesn't like to show it for me. But so they made 1.6 million in the past quarter, which is not crazy. Cost of goods sold is decreasing, which is good. Again, net income and operating are just very, very negative. Obviously, this is a very high development company, so their SG&A is massive, almost entirely research and development. So a lot of growth potential here, but it depends on what they do with all of the investments into research. Next thing to look at is their total shares, where you can see they have been diluting, or they started diluting in the past quarter, where they went from 36 million shares to 42 million. So there is a little bit of dilution happening now. And considering they didn't have that many shares to start with, this is a very significant dilution. Adding, what is that, almost 7 million shares onto 36 is a very significant percentage. So definitely something to watch out for in the future if they do continue to dilute their own shares. For the quarters on their balance sheet, we can see they do have a decent amount of cash. However, nearly all of their assets right now are in cash. So it does look like their assets have been growing significantly, but almost all of that is cash. And actually, if you see here, 2 quarters ago, their assets were at what I'm assuming is 4 million. If it wants to show up. So yes, they had 4 million in assets. They got 28 million in cash, and now they have 32 million in assets. So almost all of that growth is just cash. Same thing here, where they added another 23-ish million, and almost all of that is again cash. However, we do see growth in their property, plant, and equipment. So some actual tangible long-term assets are being created from this. However, I just want to note that while it looks like their assets massively increased in the past 2 quarters, most of that is cash. Two more things. Short-term debt is very manageable, very little debt, and almost no long-term debt at all. So that is a positive of the company. However, again, they have been diluting their shares. That is kind of how they're cash flowing themselves. So definitely something to watch out for. However, unlike the last company I reviewed, where they were doing more shares and more debt, this company is just doing more shares for now, at least. And actually, we could see this is their cash flow statement. They have been reducing debt despite issuing a lot more stock. So that is definitely something positive for the company. But overall, for cash flows, I think we kind of all expected this. Negative operating cash flow. Investing, there isn't really much activity other than just CapEx, which is basically just running the company a little bit. Um, Financing activities, again, we talked about issuing the capital stock. So their free cash flow is negative and has been negative every single quarter so far since they've been public. So definitely a lot of development still needs to happen for this company. We can see the segment history here. So there is a little bit of growth. But again, this is only about a million in sales, or I think we said 1.6 earlier. I don't think we're going to gain too much from the ratios here. So I'll just look at them quickly. But for the most part, yeah, they're all massively negative or positive numbers. So there isn't too much to get out of the ratios there yet. We definitely still need some more time for the company to develop before we can actually see that. But other than that, not too much information yet. Okay, so we do have their last earnings report available, and it looks like we could see plans for expansion into Dallas Fort Worth Metro, 32 million in raising capital, cash balance is 50 million at the end of the last quarter. And they did announce a new acquisition and also a avocado processing robot, which is something special. I that's fairly unique, but there is a lot more stuff here. Capital raising, we already talked about. Operational performance, um, increasing in SERV average daily supply hours, 108% increase. So for the company, I'm assuming that is a very positive metric. 97% increase in daily active robots year over year, and 23% increase quarter over quarter. So their overall operations are being increased. Again, their geographic expansion and that acquisition, which I'm assuming is fairly small, but definitely something interesting. Again, cutting edge technology here. So very interesting to look into. Other than that, I think that's about all I want to go through with the financials. Again, we need to kind of let this company develop a bit more before we can see everything with them. But there is definitely potential here. There is definitely some things to be optimistic about and interested in. And so this is their stock chart. We talked about this already at the beginning of the video. And one thing I want to point out is that end of the day today, they are flying up probably close to 4 or 5% just in the past like half hour. So maybe a little bit of optimism before close today, but I usually don't get into that short of time frames. But other than that, I think that's all I want to go over for the company. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. Hope you got something out of this. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I will see everybody in the next video.